Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Wade Watches. I'm Wade, and today I'm going to be reviewing The Blackening. And bear with me here because it's an ensemble cast that we have here in this movie, but it's directed by Tim Story and starring Grace Byers, Melvin Gregg, Cinqua Walls, Dwayne Perkins, Antoinette Robertson, Yvonne Orji, and X Mayo. I hope I pronounced all of those names correctly. So this was one. This was an instance where the trailers definitely caught my attention. I recall seeing the trailers as early for this movie as early as I think March when I saw John Wick Chapter 3. The trailer came on before this, and I was like, "Oh, this looks interesting." And even a couple of jokes in the trailer made me laugh. This all black ensemble horror comedy. You've caught my attention. That being said, I was rather skeptical of me like fully enjoying this going into it because it's directed by Tim Story, a director whose work that I'm not really overly fond of. This is the same director who has bought us the two mid 2000s Fantastic Four movies, Ride Along, and also the reboot of Shaft. And those movies just aren't the best. I do admit that I watched like the first two Fantastic Four movies from time to time, but only because when compared to the other two Fantastic Four movies, those two are the only like watchable ones, and that is not meant as a compliment at all. Those two movies are still kind of crappy. I guess I have some childhood nostalgia for them. They're some of the first superhero movies that I have ever seen, and so I guess I just kind of like have watch like nostalgic guilty pleasure for those two Fantastic Four movies. Still though, I acknowledge that they're not the best story wise. So yeah, I was well not well yeah, I was worried that like maybe they only show like the best parts in the trailer and the rest of the movie would just be like unwatchable cringe. But surprisingly and very thankfully, that was not the case. I had a good time watching The Blackening, and not for the reasons that I was expecting, because I'm more of a horror guy than a comedy guy. So I was really excited for the horror aspect of this. This idea of like this very racist game, literally, because the title of the movie comes from the game that they find if you've seen the trailers called The Blackening with racist Sambo imagery in it. I was very intrigued by that concept because that's an unnerving concept. I mean, they're an all black friend group, and obviously some racist psycho slasher is hunting them down. So I was expecting that part of it to be the part where like, yo, this is badass, this is awesome, this could almost rival Jordan Peele. But no, what got me here was the comedy, and I'm just not the biggest comedy guy. I mean, I like to laugh. I have a heart. I have a heart, so I do like to laugh. But I'm just not. Comedy is not my go-to genre. You won't catch me watching a plethora of Adam Sandler movies or Jim Carrey movies or anything like that. It's just not my go-to genre. I do occasionally enjoy them, and some of them are even some of my favorites. I like Ghostbusters. I like Groundhog Day. So Bill Murray. I like his kind of brand of like dry, straight-faced comedy. And I like some British comedies too. I like kind of their more sense of humor, that sophisticated, like playing it straight style sense of humor than versus like Adam Sandler farting or something. But all that to say, not a big comedy guy. It's not my go-to genre. But this surprised me with how I was like laughing really hard. Like literally, there was a point in this movie. My friend will be able to tell you. I did see this with my good friend. I had like tears in my eyes from laughing so hard, and I was not expecting this movie, directed by Tim Story, the same guy who did Ride Along, Shaft, and the Fantastic Four, to get that reaction out of me. This movie is freaking hilarious. It is hilarious. Um, and that is both to its benefit because again, I was laughing, I was having a good time with it, but also to its detriment because remember, this is a horror movie with a what I consider to be a pretty creepy concept. Again, like I'm an African American myself, and if I was with my all black friend group in a cabin in the woods, and we found this very racist game, and this slasher said that we had to play it or else he'd kill us, that would be fucking terrifying. But they choose instead to lean heavily into like the comedy. Everything's played for laughs. Even like some of the stuff that the killer does himself is played for laughs. Playing the game. There's like at first when like they first start, playing this freaky game because they have no choice but to do it. There's like a slither of tension because like it's counting down and they have to it's difficult trivia all related to black culture, and it's they're asked a I'm not going to give away any plot details or anything, but they're asked a rather difficult question that I myself had no idea how to answer, and it's counting down and they're like, oh, that was a bit tense, but like after that point everything else is just like straight up played for laughs. And again, that's not totally bad because I was laughing my ass off in this movie. I admit that. But I really wish that the horror of the situation, which is there, mind you, was taken a bit more seriously than it was because this is kind of a brilliant concept. A racist creates this fucked up game that enforces black people to play or else he's gonna kill them. There's so many different things that you can do with that. So many horrific things, and I wish they played more into that. Because also, again, no spoilers. This is spoiler-free reviews. Don't worry. But I am going to get into the fact that, like with all slasher movies, where there's a group of friends in a remote area being hunted down and all that, there's of course a twist and a motivation for why what's happening is happening, and it kind of fell flat in this movie. It again played more for laughs than like any actual sense of like grit or seriousness, or any sense of like, oh, holy shit, so that's why this is happening. This is the reveal and the twist. The twist in this movie is played straight for laughs. So again, that's the main thing with this movie. They really could have done something more tense and more horrifying because they have this very creepy concept. This is being marketed as a horror comedy and not a straight up comedy. So and AMC, like to the point where AMC theaters, because I guess they always have to come up with a new gimmick. It's being labeled as an AMC theaters thrills and chills experience, and yet it's more or less just a straight up comedy. So wrapping it up, I am going to give The Blackening a 7 out of 10 just because the comedy was actually effective, it worked, and the jokes legitimately landed. There was nothing cringeworthy. Well, no, there was some cringy stuff, but intentionally cringy stuff. So not like unintentionally cringy crap humor. Like it was, if this movie's cringy, it's deliberately being cringy, and I personally enjoyed it. So it gets a 7 out of 10 because I did legitimately find it funny, and this is like the hardest that I've laughed in a theater in a long time, and that's saying something because like I just told you guys, I'm not a go-to comedy guy. So yeah, I found it legitimately funny, but I can't rate it any higher than that because they kind of more or less wasted that the horror aspect of it. It's there in parts, and there, of course, it is an R-rated horror comedy, so there's of course some blood and gore, and like one or two gruesome kills, but that's about it. But the twist and the reveal was somewhat of a letdown. It's kind of lame because again, it's trying to be funny, and they don't really go anywhere with this concept of finding this racist game with like actual Sambo imagery, like Sambo minstrel show imagery, I should say, in it. When they could have done a lot of things with that. They could have kept their jokes and their laughs, but they could have also had a slightly more complex horror story here. I kind of get what they were going for because another thing I forgot to mention is that this takes place during the weekend leading up to Juneteenth, and it came out on the weekend leading up to Juneteenth. So there's a lot of references, like I said, to African American culture, a lot of jokes relating to stuff that Black people do, but in a like legitimately funny way though. Like again, I was laughing my ass off. So I think maybe that's another reason why they scaled back on like the actual horror story because they wanted to, I guess, include as many references to Juneteenth and African American culture and jokes and pop culture and whatnot as they could, as opposed to spending too much time on the horror element. But I'm sorry, when I go into a movie, marketing itself as a horror comedy, I still expect some horror. Just like in the vein of Scream, like Scream is a very self-aware satire of the slasher horror franchise. It's very aware of what it is, but there's also some unsettling shit in the Scream movies. And I was hoping the Blackening would do more of the same of Scream, but unfortunately it does not. But it's still a good time at the movies. It's been out going on 2 weeks now, so I recommend that you do go and catch it if you just want like a nice little laugh like I got. I personally, I mean, humor comedy is subjective, so you might not find it as funny as me, but I found it funny. So again, mainly for the last, mainly for the fact that the comedy part of this does work. It is solid and it lands. I give The Blackening a 7 out of 10. This has been another edition of Wade Watches, and I will see you all next time. Peace.